Hello and welcome to the Serving Second podcast. My name is Dr. Toussaint Williams and I'm your host on this journey of how to work as a second chair and create first place outcomes. Today is special because I have a good friend with me. Many of you know him. Some of you have worked with him. And after we get done today, you will definitely be blessed because of the time that we have together. His name is Kymone Hinds, the creator of Monetize Your Ministry. Hinds, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Dr. Toussaint, thank you for having me on this podcast. Great to be with you and your community.
Man, this is special because, we've been, connecting for years, but to be able to have you on here and this year we're not even adjusting. We're starting this concept, looking at the book, How to Be a Scottie in a Michael Jordan World. And I was like, man, who is a better example of what it means to walk along somebody who can make them great? And one of the things we try to focus on here at Serving Second is identifying people who are excellent at their craft, just like Scottie was, who was in the Hall of Fame, but also help other people achieve their goals. And I believe you are the epitome of what that looks like. I mean, you work with, every time I look up, you work with somebody else. You're like everybody, Scottie Pippen. It seems like, in most cases, you have one person you kind of dedicated in working with one lane. But Kymone, you have been able to use your gift to kind of connect with people and just walk alongside them and make them great. And it's like, that's what we're talking about here at Serving Second. You have the ability to do that. So tell us how it got started with this idea of helping other people monetize their ministry or other things that you've kind of created.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a big trip down memory lane for me. So my journey, for a lot of my work, I've been in the first place, right? I was a youth leader. I was funny. So the first person I actually worked with as an assistant leader was my wife. We both worked in youth ministry. She was the chaplain of our choir and I was the assistant chaplain. So shout out to her. I want to just remember that part of it. But really, coming into my work in business, one of the things that I had to try to figure out is, what value do I add in this marketplace? There's so many different people doing so many things. And I felt like one of the things that God had given me the ability to do is to see other people's ability, to be able to see other people's strengths and to say to them, hey, you're really good at this. And I think that's just my natural ability that became something that now I was able to help people, not just identify it, but teach them how they can maximize it. And so really that's how it got started, by that ability to see and then to help people maximize.
Man, listen, don't miss that, because I want to make sure what you said here, and knowing you, but hearing it is, just kind of a light bulb went off for me. You're saying you saw that you had an ability to see other ability in other people.
Yeah.
And that is, most people are thinking, not most people, let me take it. I'm often like, I see people working and the person with the shovel is the one that works, but you have the ability to, I mean, it baffles me just how skilled people are. And we think, oh, it has to be the person like the MJ who dunks from the free throw line, but there's a certain gift of just being able to see gifts in other people. And so the reason I'm saying this, because maybe somebody out there that's watching saying, well, I don't have that in front of the spotlight gift. But what you're saying is you can see people and be like, hey, you need to be in the spotlight and walk alongside them. And that's awesome.
Let's be honest, for people like myself who have that ability to see other people's ability, you can actually make that a negative thing if you're not careful, because you start saying, well, I see this person's really good at this, and I see this person's really good at this, and I see this person's really good at this, but what about me? And maybe the thing that you are missing is the ability to see what other people are good at, that's actually your strength. So it's so interesting, the things that we overlook, because I guarantee you, if you have that ability and you go to people and you say, hey, Toussaint, you are really good at organization and putting things together. Many times those people don't see it in themselves.
So you saw that you had this ability. What next? How did you kind of start getting this out there? Because honestly, you may see you have an ability, and then there's a fear of, but I see it, but is it really do other people see it? And then when other people see it, is it valuable? If you
Yeah,
understand that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
mindset.
absolutely, absolutely. This conversation is one that's really having me think. How does
Yeah.
this work? How did this all work? And one of the first places it started is coming out of being a pastor, moving into the world of business. I was working on some offerings to put out to the marketplace, and one of the first things I worked on doing was putting out a summer camp, online summer camp, because in my previous roles as in youth ministry, I'd always done summer camp. So I said, okay, I'll do an online. And we, at that time, my family of five, we would have these Hinds legacy group meetings, because the truth is I was working as a solopreneur. I didn't have a team. So my wife and our three kids, y'all are my team. And one time I was saying, I think I should do a camp to help teens start a podcast. Right? I'm on a podcast talking about this, so this is going to be ironic. My youngest daughter says, I don't really like that idea, but if you did a camp on how to start a business, I would sign up. All right.
Mm.
So here's the thought. So she signs up. Maybe there were five kids, and out of that camp, she became one of the people that really ran with it. Well, remember now, I'm starting leading the camp. She is the one taking the camp, but it was her idea. Things flipped where she's the one now growing her business, and I started working in a role where I'm supporting her building this business. Her sister, my older daughter, now starts seeing her sister making money, and she says, well, I want to do something. So she starts something, and I now have this role of supporting her. And those two, my two daughters, and their success actually started opening up doors for me, not just for teenagers, but really for people who are friends and others saying, hey, I'm more open to what you have. So conversations I had started with people saying, I think you're good at this, they started to loop back around saying, hey, I know you mentioned this, can you help me build it out?
So you started working as as a parent, and you got your kids involved. And so the first person you served second was your child, which
Yeah.
is crazy. Like you were actually saying, "Hey, listen, I'm going to just work with my kids." And it's interesting because this was not any survey. There wasn't a gifts inventory. You just said, "I'm just going to work with my kids," and this is how this got started.
Yeah, and some people who know me in business, that's probably how they first started knowing about me, seeing my daughters on television and in the news, and them building out their businesses. And I remember, so one of the people that really helped to really take my business to the next level was Myron Edmonds. So backstory, I had been seeing Myron's a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and he's spoken for events that I've hosted, and influential pastor in our circle. And so one morning I was somewhere, I was in California, and I watched a sermon from Myron on the East Coast, and he was speaking for a men's event. And it was just like, I was just like, man, this guy has a special connection when he speaks to men. Now, does he have the ability to speak to different groups? Absolutely. But it's just a special connection. So I messaged him and I said, man, you really have something here when you speak to men.
Mm.
Now I shared that with him. Again, that's part of what we talked about. I felt like my ability is being able to see other people's ability. But it was around 2020, just before the pandemic, Myron reached back out and he said, man, listen, you've been telling me all along, I have something I need to build on. I need your help. I can't do this by myself. And would you work with me as my coach to help me build this out? And really, that relationship has been one that has helped both his business and mine, because it helped me to really see what I could do in that scenario in terms of helping someone build something out. It helped him to build a platform that has now influenced and impacted thousands of men's lives. But it also helped other people to see what I could do in the work I was doing for others.
So you've been able to work with. You talked about Myron, but you now it's not just a coaching, like you're like the coach's coach,
Yeah.
the whisperer of the Barry Gordy of Motown, being able to work alongside those individuals. What has that done for you and your confidence in that? It's one thing where you see, well, let me just ask this. You talk about Myron, like you see Myron, and we've kind of seen him, he's worked with Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. He's kind of gone on to do some major things. Does that sometimes make you feel like you're doing a good job or not doing a good job. Because for some people may feel like, oh, I need to be in front. I should be working with Eric Thomas, or I should be working with these other individuals. In other words, you blow somebody else up. How does that work for you? Like, how do you feel about that?
There is a unique joy that I have watching the people that I work with in achieve success.
Mm.
Um, there is this, and I don't know if this is everyone's story, but there's parts of me that I feel more excited when someone I'm working with hits a milestone, gets to a success level, because it shows that the work that we talked about doing, that there is success in that work. Now, are there times where you wonder, man, like, is there going to be a moment like that for me? Absolutely, because I'm human. But more than anything, I feel like I have the calling to help other people succeed in their calling. And I believe as I do that, doors will open for me to be able to do more of it.
And the reason why I bring that out is not because that human element of understanding, hey, I'm working, part of my work is to help other people. And it's almost like, when is my turn? And one of the things I got from that when I was watching The Last Dance, and they're doing it from Michael Jordan's perspective, and Scottie's like, hey, wait a second, I helped build this thing too.
Yeah.
And I think there is that natural part. And I think we want to kind of work that, because people who serve in this second chair role are often in the background. But there's a component to that you mentioned, is the I'm called to serve in this role. So there's a undergirding push from a relationship with God, that God has called me to this. But then
Yeah.
also, one of the things I'm seeing is, man, now it seems like as you've been successful blowing somebody up, other people are now calling you and say, hey, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that?
Absolutely.
And I really just want to want you to speak to that person who's serving the background, and seeing how using that gift that they have could make a difference in other areas of their personal life.
Yeah. And I want to say this before I forget this point. I will answer that question. You mentioned and watching The Last Dance, one of the things that I think hurt Scottie Pippen is he felt like the storytelling showed a lot of the negatives with him. It did not show, the sacrifices he made. And whoever was responsible for that, that was, I think, a miss on their part. I got to give credit to people. The people I've worked with have done a good job of saying, you know what? No, this Kymone worked with me. He helped me with this. This is what I brought to the table, but this is what I could not do that he was able and instrumental to. And I think like someone like Myron has been very instrumental in saying to others, right? Hey, Myron, how did you do this? Hey, listen, talk to Kymone. This is the person who helped me get established, helped build this stuff. And I think for maybe someone who's watching this podcast, you may not be serving in the second role. Maybe you are in the lead role. I think it's important to actually give
Yes.
credit and to acknowledge the gifts and to, like really affirm those who are in roles that may not be as visible, but they're just as impactful, that they do need that affirmation. They do need other people to say, hey, this is the person that did this, instead of just taking the credit because you're the one in the front.
And so I think this is, man, Kimon, you are hitting it like literally just things I'm just kind of wrestling with and kind of dealing with. Number one, we have to be careful as people who serve second to kind of, or be sensitive to the people that we hitch our wagons to, because that can make a huge difference in somebody's impact, or how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others. And for speaking to those individuals who serve in those first chair roles, you've got to be intentional about affirming the people that are helping you get to where you need to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then for
Yeah.
those who are serving second, there is a part of this that you have to get confident and spend time being just, I'm good in my own skin, my own role. There will be people that will whisper in your ear, hey, but you're the one doing it. Why aren't you out front? And you have to be confident saying, I know what I'm comfortable doing. I know what my role is. And actually, there may be aspirations I have that in time that will materialize. But for right now, this is my role. I am functioning in this role. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm using the gifts I have, the skills I have, my expertise, and I'm going to do the best for the organization, for the team that I'm on, so that we can be successful. And when we're successful, listen, we celebrate as if we're the one that is holding the MVP trophy. We're
Yes,
the
sir.
one with that you're standing out front. We celebrate because that's what really, I don't think any success comes without a team.
And that's really critical to the next phase of our conversation, identifying this team and what that looks like. And Myron is not the only person you work with. Most recently you have a coaching side, you got a writing side, you got a speaking side, and I can imagine there's so many other people. Tell us about how, after working with Myron, being successful with Myron, how that has branched out. Because I want to speak to somebody who may think I only have this role, but in being faithful and being focused and being highly gifted in this role and being highly successful in this role will branch out or open other opportunities.
Yeah. I think for my journey in my business, just candidly, I was not as clear as to what I did and what my skills were until I started working with people like Myron and John and April Nixon and Joseph Nimwange. Because before, sometimes you have ideas and you have concepts, right? I know I can do this. But until someone says, let me trust you and give you the opportunity to do it, you get a chance to actually test out these ideas. So I became a better coach, a better all the things that I do because of the people I worked with. Because of serving second, I became better at it. Now,
Mm.
because of doing that, I think I've refined my process, I've refined my skills, I've refined my expertise. If I'll say to your audience, before when I started my coaching business, I was an everything coach. I was life coach, relationship coach. I was coaching couples. I was doing all sorts of stuff. But in that serving second role, it helped me to be able to stand with confidence and say, I'm a business coach. That's what I do. And now I have a process that I work people through. And since then, as you mentioned, I've worked with in partnership with people like Athena Shack, helping people to write their books. Athena is a publisher. That's her business. But because of our relationship, she's helped me publish a book. I thought, hey, can we come alongside each other? I'll use the platform that I've built. I'll support you. I'll help lead this challenge, etc. But you're the main person. You are the one bringing the expertise. And so we've helped people to go through the process of understanding what they want to write, writing their books, and some of them are on the road to publishing. Work with Pierre Quinn. Pierre, Pierre and I go back all the way to college. And then watching his journey from pastoring into the marketplace speaking, I reached out to him in November of 2024 and said, Pierre, there are people out here who have messages that they need to put it out in the marketplace. You've been doing it. Pierre has been so much more successful in the speaking world than I have been. And so I said, okay, let's partner together and and both of us, we see our strengths. I'm much more on the organizational side of it, but we collaborate and he's the one that brings the expertise to the table. And so we've done that to help people figure out how they take these messages, clarify for the marketplace, and begin getting out there, getting paid
Yeah.
and reaching people.
So let me ask you this: as you mentioned at least 6 or 7 people, maybe 8 or 9 people that you've kind of worked with, and these are people that you can publicly name. I'm sure there are others. Was there walk us through that process of, you have a gift and then walking to them, like, were you nervous, were you about to, scared you're going to play yourself because you have this gift of, I'm an everything coach, and then I kind of became a speaking coach? How did you know that was going to work with Pierre or work with Athena, to actually make it into something?
Sure. So, um, you know what? Once I started honing in on being a business coach, it was interesting. I went through a program with Eric Thomas, and I forgot what was the name of the program at the time. Game Changers, I think it was.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out, what am I really doing? Like, and so they had us do an exercise, and I looked at all the people I was working with had a heart for ministry, for service. Ministry, not just meaning you're a pastor or whatever, but is to have a heart for service. And they wanted to build out some monetization from that. And so that's where Monetize Your Ministry came up. That's where it came from. I said, okay, that's what I do. I help people monetize your ministry. Well, in the doing of that, I started to see, okay, I'm strong in the coaching side of this, helping people become coaches. But then there are other areas that people want to monetize through, like writing and speaking, that I don't have that specialty in. So in the reaching out to someone like Athena or to Pierre, what we first had was we had a relationship. I knew these people,
Mm.
and maybe this helps someone if you're looking at doing something with someone It is good to have chemistry. It's also good to just try it. So we said we did when we started, Pierre and I, Athena and I, we did not say we're going to do this for the next 5 years. We said we're going to do one challenge. Let's see how
Mm.
this works. And we started meeting together, and we started to talk about what do we see this looking like. And again, they were the ones bringing the expertise. So in my role is to see how their expertise we can put it into a format that would reach others. And so that was what I was, my goal was, Pierre, you have something in your head. How do we get it into the minds of other people, into a format that they can receive? Athena, you have this information. You've helped hundreds of people write books. How do we
Me
put
too,
that
me
in a
included.
format? Yeah. Yeah. Me as well, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And it's crazy because what I'm hearing you say is once you got aligned with your gift and what your skill set was, then doors begin to open with other people that you can kind of put along. And it wasn't a 10-year commitment. Like it was, hey, let's just try this out. Let's
Yeah.
see what doors open. And man, God has just literally seemed like just blowing things open for you to make a difference and an impact for so many different folks.
Absolutely. And I think I like the term, right? Serving. That's
Yeah.
really the essence of this is, the podcast is called Serving Second. Even the person who is first is still serving. We're just serving in different roles. And it's being able to say, what is my role? And what do I need to do in this role for the good of the organization, the project, the whatever, however long the commitment is, but what is my role in this? And being able to find people who will play other roles that complement yours.
Man, Kymone, this has been you're helping me out just because you're really kind of refining this. And I think one of the things when we started talking, years ago, just how to work this out. And I've just kind of been behind just taking notes. And I think just this conversation has really kind of helped me identify the lane that I'm currently serving in serving second, and just for the community, because there are people out there. And it's crazy because you think it's just one, we start both, I'll start out in ministry where ministry is that one journey, but this impacts so many others. There have been vice principals, there's been deans, there's been folks that work in other areas as associates and assistants, and they say, hey, listen, I'm in this role, how do I navigate this? And so what you're doing allows people to, number one, affirm the fact that God has given us all unique gifts.
And I want to just affirm you for doing this podcast, because um, many times we don't see how our journey is important for other people. We see our journey because we live in our own story. We live
Mhm.
in our own story, so we don't get that chance to kind of just sometimes sit back and say, okay, what are the lessons along the journey? And then how can those lessons be helpful for others? And I think as you shared your own journey in different roles of leadership with amazing qualifications and all of the education and experience you bring, but still being able to be in roles that support others' vision, support others as they lead. And that journey that you have, I think there's so many people who are resonating with this movement. I'm calling it a movement, serving
Yeah, that's it.
second, with the podcast, with the content, with the books that needed it. But
Yeah.
until you showed up, they didn't have that person to say, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. Now, this is what I need. And so I want to just affirm you for doing this.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just let me say, you're somebody out there who is serving second. You see Kymone. He is the ultimate Scottie. He is the person that walks along folks and allows them to blow up. And it's not just them, but as you've kind of we're hearing Kymone's story, he's God is blessing, expanding his territory as well. Kymone, what do you say to that person that's shy about their gift or kind of nervous about that, and they in a sense don't want to play themselves? They're like, I don't want to kind of go out there and make a fool of myself, but they know that there's something more that they have
Mhm.
inside of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That is something we all wrestle with, because we look at other people. We live in a world, we look at other people, we look at others doing the thing that we thought we should be doing. We look at other people and we see them doing it differently. What I want to tell you is there is someone who needs what you have, and what you might see that may come easy to you. There is something all of us overlook and minimize. There is a part of your story that you overlook and minimize. There is a skill that you bring. There's part of your temperament that just it's so natural to you that you may not see the value in it. But the value, the only way you'll see that value is when you actually begin using it to help someone else. Now, I want to encourage you to use it to help someone else in a way that also helps you make income. But regardless, once you begin using it to help others, there is a point where you start realizing, wait a minute, you mean that thing that was coming easy to me is actually difficult for others? That story that I was minimizing, someone else was now resonating with that story, and they started to say, that's what I was looking for. The only way, and I know it's hard. I wish we could get people to tell us they need it before we start, but the only way you'll know how impactful it is going to be is when you start putting it out. And so I want to encourage you, put it out in little ways. Find places to share it. Maybe start your own podcast, start your own way of sharing it. Whatever that thing is, begin serving, because that's really the heart of it. And then you'll start seeing the value of it. You'll start realizing how many people needed it before you even showed up with it.
Wow. So thank you, man. Serve, and then in that blossoms out what ultimately the fruit of that service is, making a difference for other people's lives. And that's essential. Kymone, listen, last thing before I let you go, I want to ask you, you just recently put out a advertisement, a journey of your life. And I can't leave without having you kind of put that on display. You're talking about how you did this for other people. Now, what has that done for you? And I saw it, and I couldn't leave without having a conversation with you just about that last part of the journey.
Yeah, so interesting. I just put out a post on my Instagram and my social media, and it talked about the fact that I would always show up for other people's stuff, right? I would show up for other people. This is going all the way back, right? Other people's events and programs, and build other people's things. But there was a part of it that I was not intentional in putting things together and investing in something that was my own dream and my own vision. And it took me hitting some points of low finances, some points of what am I really storing? How am I storing this the right way for me to say, okay, you know what? There is something God has given me, even in how I'm serving others, that I need to maximize. And so I started doing that. And so I've built out a business that, yes, as you mentioned, in the role that my business serves, it still serves second to others in their business. But I had to invest in it. I had to give it really that leaning into it to help it grow. And so, as you mentioned, I think for anyone, even if you're serving second, you want to serve in that role to your maximum ability, to give it what you're called to do. And then the last thing I'll say is, if there is something that God is calling you, or you feel led to push out there into the world, do not shrink back because of, I'm only called to this. Don't pigeonhole yourself into something else if you feel called to something beyond.
That's it. Stretch yourself. So, Kymone, how can people find you? How can they learn how to monetize their ministry? How can they take their journey and really make an impact? How can people connect with you?
Sure. So the two easiest ways, right? So my name is on the screen. I'm thinking my name is on the screen.
Yes.
If you go to any social media platforms, you'll find my name, Kymone Hinds. That's one of the advantages of having a unique spelling of both of my names. You go to Kymone Hinds on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, TikTok. You'll find me there. That's one of the best ways to connect. If you connect with me there, just drop me a message. Let me know if you saw this episode on Serving Second. I'll have something special for those of you who watch this episode. So just shoot me a DM and I'll send you a free resource. And also you can go to my website. It's KymoneHinds.com. It's my name, KymoneHinds.com. Would love to connect with you and share resources and just build community.
This is the Serving Second podcast, where people who serve in the second chair can learn how to create first place outcomes. And so we are so grateful today that Kymone Hinds is with us. Kymone, thank you so much for spending time with us, for blessing us, for allowing us to get a glimpse of how we can serve second, and in doing so can expand our gifts, and then we can make a difference in the lives of other people we serve. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. This is another episode of the Serving Second podcast. Look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care and God bless.